So how do we stop the abuse? How do we stop the abuse, and what can we do?
Okay. How do we stop the abuse? Very good question. I think that communication is the key. I think that people should stop thinking that it doesn't exist. And I think that the churches should be more open about receiving people when they discuss, if they can discuss, and they were open. I don't know if you maybe want to have like a group like you had the singles group. Maybe you want to have workshops for recovering people of sexual abuse. I know that and I guess we have to know what to let into our system, learn what to in our system, like what we hear. I used to like some shows, particular shows, and they had a lot of, it wasn't pornography, but they put in, I mean, like even police shows, and things like that. I had to stop watching them because of what had happened to me recently, of recent years. And some of them were my favorite shows. And but every time I hear something, even if it's don't see it, and it would make me feel ugly, basically inside. The way you feel when you've been violated. So what I learned to do, to overcome mine is one of them I just don't watch all together, but then I found a new one that I like crime shows, and I noticed at the end of the show, they make the people more human, they think and do things. So when I hear the music coming and everything, I either mute it, or I get up and go make some coffee or whatever until I can come back. So I think that my point is that you have to learn wholeness, learn healthiness, learn what to allow in your system. It's like with a person that's a drug user, stuff, or alcoholic. Let's say you need like one day at a time to heal, but you don't put yourself in that position where you might slip and fall. So that's how I handle it at home or on a television. And I don't think I've been to the movies in years because I can't control those people's cameras. So I think communication will help, because if that which is kept in the dark can't be treated, and so we have to bring it out and have our kids or whoever to be able to trust us more. I know when my daughter was growing up, because of things that happened to me, I didn't let her out my sight much, and that may not have been so great for her, but it was better for me, and I would talk to her about, like people say, I'm your uncle, I'm your father, those are not your uncles, they are not your fathers, and don't go nowhere with them. Anything that they offer you, I give it to you, and if I can't give it to you, you can't have it, That may not have been the right way to do it, but that was the right way for me, There was a male in my family, in our family, who had violated several of me and my siblings. However, with me, they never got to touch me, but they violated me in other ways. And they did touch the others. And because, like I said earlier, I was a fighter, and that just didn't happen. They would say, I'll tell your mother what you said, and then I said, but tell my mother what you attempted to do. So communication, again, you have to tell it, no matter whether that person want to hear from it or not, And in your church, the members, more than you think, have been through some of the same things, and they are healed, or hiding it, And I think that we need to have programs that help people be able to open up and tell people and not feel ostracized and not feel like bad, Like I said, just because you were molested doesn't mean that you would molest somebody else. You may have those thoughts, but you learn to always say people can do any of those things. And I always say the reason why in your conscience, I call them sentrymen. The sentrymen went to sleep on their job So something could happen. You need to be always aware. I notice sometimes that even conversations that are, you would think nonsensical, turn into those things that they use as a gateway to get in, teaching you something about life, not sex life, but just start off saying, oh, let me tell you how to cook. Get you to yourself and get your trust. You have to be very careful of that, So those are the things that I think that
What role do you think parents play? I know parents are supposed to be protecting their kids, but a lot of times parents are at work or different places. What role or what can parents do? How can they better protect their kids?
Listening. I think listening to their kids, not leaving their kids with people. I mean, I know that you say, okay, I mean, even females may molest other kids, and you think, well, Aunt Bessie would never do something like that. Well, I've seen some things where Aunt Bessie have done some things, and so I like I said, I don't trust anybody. I never did, and I don't think I do too much trusting now. I just don't, because I feel like people don't get help. People haven't sought help in their own lives, and why I'm going to trust them with something that's, my child is precious to me. Mm-hmm. So I think people need to, when my daughter was young, I used to always, when I came home from work, I remember when my mother used to come home from work, and may want to tell her something, but she was tired. Like I said, she was working hard. She didn't want to hear that until she got relaxed and unwind at home, So and that used to hurt my feelings and some things I really wanted to say. So I said, when I had my child, I said, every day when I come home from work, an hour belongs to her. Even if it's doing cooking dinner, but an hour belongs to her, so she can tell me what has happened in her life, So communication, like I said, I think that's what people need. And they need to stop saying, this man, their mate or their father would never touch my child. Don't say never, because you never know, what they'll do. You don't know what they drank, what they did, what they read. It causes them to say, I'm going to try that. I'm going to try that. I know somebody that used to just read dirty words to a child, and I guess that was their form of stimulation. But you just, at that point, you got to know who you know. You got to know who you got to know that these people made God the head of their life before you trust them. And that don't always work either, frankly, I really don't know what to do other than just hold your kid to your bosom and protect them,
Well, like you said, definitely listen. What would you say to people who are listening, who are abusing children, who are raping, or what would you say to the molesters? What would you say to them? What do you think they need to understand and what they need to know?
That's hard. That's really hard.
That impacts the rest of your life? That what they're doing is impacting us for the rest of our lives?
Yes, it is. But do you know what happened to them? You know what I'm saying? You don't know what happened to them. Not that to me, that's not an excuse. However, what I would say to them is, stop, first of all. Think. They're not your equal. These children are not your equal. And if you find yourself more comfortable with a kid, then definitely seek help, because you're not a kid. You're an older man or older woman or whatever, and here's a 3-4-year-old. And I understand, like I said, even infant, they are not your equal. God didn't put you here to be with children. He did not put you here to molest children. So something is wrong and something needs to be fixed if you think that's okay.
So you mentioned having your child, listening to your child. What would you say to a child or a person who's being abused and sexually molested? They've told their parents they're not getting anywhere, they're not getting any help. What would you say to them? Should they keep telling someone until somebody listens? What would you say to them?
I would say find a hotline for sexual abuse, just like the hotline for suicide attempts and things like that, you know. See, and they, well, what if they're not old enough to do that? I don't know, you know. I don't know what to do. Tell somebody else. I know what I used to do was tell other people, you know, and during my age time with elementary school and things like that, they didn't get involved with, because I was physically abused as well, and they didn't get involved with that, but I had a couple of teachers that would keep me after school, so I had less time at home, you know, and they would give me advice on what to do and stuff. And then I know that I had to let it go sometimes, and I was on the bus and I was going to dancing school or whatever, little kid, and the first person I saw that looked like a sweet little old lady, I just bust out and start telling it all, you know. That made me feel better. Some of the advice made me feel better, you know, and what to do if something happens, you know. Because that's why I was able to fight off this man all the time. I got strength from other people. I didn't know them people. We never even passed names. I never saw them again. I always think it was the 82 Mount Rainier bus when I was going over. That was the longest ride that I would have to take in 2 buses. And I sat by a lady one time, and I thought after I got off that she probably said, you know, my goodness, this, and I rode the bus early, like 7, 8 years up with you can't do that now, but that's when I rode the bus really early, so I would tell it all. And then we had a neighbor, and I would just tell it to her, you know, and she was very kind, and the neighborhood called her mama, and she would always see to it that we was busy and not around the individual that was in our neighborhood that done so many bad things to people.
But when I hear you talk, I hear you saying you were able to get strength from other people, telling other people, you know, and I think that's so critical for people. Okay, if you don't have your parents, you can't tell. You tell a teacher. You tell there's nothing is happening. You want to tell a teacher, police officer, firefighter, anybody you can tell, because people are what give you that strength.
Yes, it is. You know, you're so right. Yes, it is. You know, gives you so much strength. And I used to feel, like I said, I used to feel bad. The hairdresser, I was sent to the hairdresser every two weeks when I started out in the 3rd grade. So that was a thing. So some people in roles as therapists and don't know they are. You know. I used to hear people say at the bartender that they talk to, the barber that they talk to, and that's so fun. You have to have somebody to talk to.
Yeah. And even though, you know, people will say, you know, they tell me I don't know what to do, but sometimes you're right. Somebody may tell you, and you may feel like you might be able to make things worse. You may not know what to do, because sometimes somebody will tell us something, and then we're afraid to call the police because, well, we call the police, they could be taken away. You know, all this other stuff can happen.
Family separated.
Right, family separated. We think about all these types of stuff, but even though you told people everybody didn't call the police, but they gave you that strength to be strong. So it was something that came out of it.
And they helped me get involved in other programs that kept me away from the people, you know. Because at first when I was staying after school, my mother said, well, I know she don't ever have to stay. I love school, you know, and I was a straight A student. So why is she staying after school? Teachers used to have me help her correct papers, wash the board, anything, because teachers didn't get up and leave school like they do now, you know. And so then I would stay there for that, you know. And then as it got towards getting dark, and Mama would be mad when I got home, and that was another issue. But then the teachers would bring me home and tell my mother, oh, I had her helping me do so and so, you know. But listening is a good thing to help a kid, you know, through those things, you know. And I have a sister that said, well, those things happened to you, but they didn't happen to us, you know. And in some families I've heard that it happened to all of them, but only some of them remembered it.
Right, and some of them, remember it or want to come forward. So if you're the person that has happened to you, just because it didn't happen to everyone else doesn't mean that it didn't happen to you.
Right.
You know, and that's the thing you had to get over. You know, sometimes you have to get over that, wonder, well, what's wrong with me? Why me? And that person who did that to you just got issues. It has nothing to do with you.
It has nothing to do with you. And when you said about remembering, one remembering and not, it brings me to a phrase, and I may not phrase it right now, And I saw it on the bus one time, and they used to have poetry on the side of the buses or up by the lights on the buses, and it was Lucille Clifton is the lady's name, and she said, everybody keeps wanting me to remember. I keep remembering my memories, but they want me to remember theirs, you know. And I always remember because they hit home for me because I remember it, and some say it didn't happen to me, or they don't remember that happening, you know. And I said, when I saw that, I said that was a message. I was on my way to work one day. I said, that's a message for me. I'm remembering what happened to me, and people don't remember what happened.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, that neighbor lady used to always say to me, and pat me on the head like a puppy all the time, because I was patting you on the head. I know, baby, you know, I know. And I could stay with her. It was they had the same names, but different last names of another lady, about three doors down. But she would call my godmother on her job, you know. And they didn't do anything, but they protected me more.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they would open their eyes, you know, more. And the lady, one of the ladies' daughter is still alive, and she always thinks, and she said, I always wonder why they did those things to you. See, and I always wanted a family like her, but you don't know what happened in their family. And because her father we didn't have a father at home. And it was Mr. and Mrs. So-and-so and two children. That was looking like Leave It to Beaver almost, you know. And then it was another girl I went to school with, and I'd go around her house and stay sometimes. And her mother and father, she was the only child, and just thought that was the best thing. But when she got grown, and we ran into each other one time, she told me some horrible things.
Yeah.
And we didn't see it like that. You know, we didn't see that. So it's hard.
Yeah. And I think, you know, you were saying earlier about we have to listen, we have to talk about it, and it has to be talked about all the time because it hides in secret. You think about, like you and I were saying earlier, when a person goes to the strip club and they see all of that stuff at the strip club, where do you think it goes? It goes into someone's mind, right?
Yes.
When we watch pornography or listen
It's going in your spirit.
Right,
now.
right. It goes in your spirit. It goes into your mind, and it sits there.
And then you say, is this something I want to do? Is it pleasurable?
Mm-hmm.
Is, you know, any of those things? Do I want to try that? You know?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's where a lot of maybe drug use come from.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to do it, but you're going to feel bad about it.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't want nobody to know, so you maybe use something to suppress your conscience. I guess that's what it is. So you can do those things.
Right. Yeah. And until you get to a point where, you know, I think about not all truckers, but I was listening to this story where a lady talks about the truck stops. She was a sex worker at the truck stop, and you talked about the truck stop.
Yeah,
the
but you said she was a what?
A sex worker.
Okay.
Right? But she was a victim of sexual abuse as well, and then she was put out there. And you think about how many men, she was talking about, I forgot the number, it was like 14, 15 guys a night. How many men that she went through in that year that she was out there? How many men, and you think about it, no one thought about calling the police, no one thought about saying this isn't right. Because she said she was young, right? And she looked young. She said she wasn't developed. Yeah. She looked young. So when you think about sexual abuse, people see and don't see, right? And I think, of course, listening to your kids, having conversations where we just talk about it out in the open, so it's not a secret, and then people really paying attention and calling the police. Because if you're driving by and you see this little girl going into this truck stop with this bunch of truckers, you know,
don't that ring a bell?
Right, exactly. It should ring a bell. It should say something to you. So it's important that if we see something, we say something, i.e. calling the police, and you keep calling the police until something happens.
I knew of a person in adulthood, though, it still was wrong, that she was a Band-Aid effect over, that's what I'm saying, over what had happened to her and things, and she would go to the truck stops.
Mm-hmm.
And I couldn't stop her, but I could make her contact me where she was in case something happened, you know. but she always did, and that was during the time with the CB radio. She had her own, so she could meet up with these guys.
And how did you, I know you were saying you're still working through it, but how did you get from there to now? How did you get better?
I did a lot of praying. I did a lot of crying. I did a lot of talking to people, and some people that I talked to avoided me, afterwards. And some people just was like, they can't believe those things happen. But that's mostly what I did. I just keep talking and keep talking and keep talking.
And sometimes people avoid it because they don't want to talk about what happened to them.
What happened to them.
Sometimes people don't know what to say. But a lot of it is because people dealing with their own stuff, and they just don't want to. I don't want to deal with yours because if I deal with yours, it's going to make me think about mine.
I've had that. I had somebody almost tell me. They said, and they were very distressed after I told them. And I didn't want to distress you, but I needed to talk to somebody, And so when they told me this, eventually they told me that, but they told it different than what I guess I had a gut wrenching and going down in, and they kind of told it like this, skip over some of the parts and things, and say, yeah, I know what you mean, kind of thing, but they wouldn't go all the way. And whether I was professional or not, I have the heart, to empathize with people that really went through whether they did or not, but to go through things. I think the Lord laid that on my heart to empathize. I was wondering if the Lord allowed me to go through all these things so I could, do that. One day I was thinking that, Lord, why? Just why? Why must I suffer? So then I had read this book, it said Hinds Feet for High Places, and there was different characters, and there was an allegory, and one of them was called To a Pain and Suffering. And I said, so maybe that's it, because it happened today. You know what I'm saying? It happens every day. But some days I'm better able to deal with it.
Yeah. And I think when we talk about why the bad things happen because there are bad people, right? And then there are bad people because bad things happen to sometimes bad people. Like you said, a lot of these guys at the truck stop probably was sexual abuse, probably introduced to pornography at a young age, and this is all they know. They're addicted. They don't know how to get help, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, I forgot. Yeah, they can be addicted to porn.
Right, just all types of stuff, and it just keeps, the cycle keeps going. So just like we're talking about sexual abuse from the person being abused, if you're a guy or a girl listening to us and you are the abuser, it's important for you, like you were saying, to get help, right? It's important for you to realize that you are, I asked the Lord one time, I said, who was it, sin or iniquity? Who has the greater sin? Who has the worst? And the Lord had to remind me that all of us we have Satan, and then all of us, right, are victims. Some of us are victims to what people did to me. I'm a victim of what you did to me. And then you're a victim in your mind. You're a victim because you don't know how to say no. You're a victim because you're susceptible to, habits that you can't stop. So all of us are victims. Now that doesn't take away from the fact that if you hurt someone, that you deserve to do the crime, do the time. You do the crime, you do the time. One thing about the gospel of Jesus Christ, you can find Jesus even in jail, so you don't have to worry about that.
Yeah.
But I think the thing is, it's like we have to talk about this, so we don't keep it in secret.
I think one thing is, you pointed on, like a person that has been a victim, who victimizes other people, I think don't know what to do with what happened to them and the feeling of it, and whether they feel vindicated or dirty about what happened. I think that is something that I've been learning when I hear other people talk, and you think, I knew this person, knew other person that victimized some people, but then later on learning that they were victimized, and then you go, well, like you said, but it's still wrong. Yeah. It's still a sin, and you still need help.
Exactly. And I like what you're sharing, how it's one day, not, you use the word one day at a time, but like you said, you're still healing. Like you're still, this is still impacting you. And I think that's what people need to know, that when you're a victim of sexual abuse, it impacts the rest of your life.
Yes.
Right? Even, let's say, pornography. Even, we were talking about how kids are sexualized at an early age.
And it's a trigger for you later.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's a trigger. It really is. And for me, I felt that after my last violation that I know of, that when I was violently raped, like I said, what did I do?
Mm-hmm.
And I wasn't so much on what did I do as why did they?
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, why? And that I no longer want any intimacy.
Mm-hmm.
So like you said, it messes up a person's
Mm-hmm.
life.
Mm-hmm.
The Lord didn't make me not to want to be intimate, you
Mm-hmm.
know, but I don't want to be intimate.
Mm-hmm.
And for a long time, you, female or male,
Mm-hmm.
could not touch me.
Mm-hmm.
So there is healing.
Yeah.
But I mean, you could not even, like, as one time I was sitting in the store and waiting for somebody, and a person sat down beside me and said, "Hey, how you doing?" It was not any way sexual,
Mm-hmm.
but it tore me up, and I jumped up and moved.
Mm-hmm.
So you tend to react to a whole lot of things, and I didn't, like I said, it was male or female.
Mm-hmm.
Don't touch me, and I had a saying, don't breathe in my area,
Right.
or nothing, just stay back. But when I did go to church, because I was always in church but when I went to a church that made me feel like a family in the beginning, and they started hugging me and stuff when I walked in the door, and it made me like this. But then I began, in a few months, I joined because it was really healing and stuff. Now, I didn't talk about it,
Mm-hmm.
you know, at the time, but it was really healing. And when I began to talk about it, that's what I said, they need to be more open. They were like, well, that was a long time ago, you know, let it go,
Mm-hmm.
you know. And I used to ask my therapist when I'm going to heal for this, because that was in 2004.
Mm-hmm.
I think 2004, and here we are at 24, and I still have problems with
Mm-hmm.
what happened.
Mm-hmm.
So telling people let it go,
Yeah.
get over it, doesn't happen, and they know it didn't happen for them, because I noticed that it's usually the person that has been through something. But like you said, they don't want me to open up their wounds, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So they tend to say, okay, yeah, that happened to me too, so, but get over it. You get over it. No, you don't get over it.
Mhm.
You have to heal through it.
Right.
You
right.
can't get over it. Ain't no jumping over it or none of that other stuff, you know. Or else I could be the next person that victimizes somebody else, you know. And I don't ever want to be that.
Because when you're sexually abused, right, to deal with that pain, we come up with defense mechanisms. And those defense mechanisms, those protective shields that we put up are still with us. Some people, like, sleep too much. Some people drink too much. Some people don't drink at all. Some people don't want to be around people. Some people become promiscuous. Some people, fight all the time. Some people don't fight. So it impacts you, right? It impacts you, right?
Yeah.
So until we realize, okay, this is why I'm feeling the way I'm feeling, why I'm responding the way I'm responding, then that's the big step is realizing that. Okay, this is why I'm responding. I'm responding because of what happened to me. That's the big step, and then you can begin to put it in its place. Begin to say, okay, all right, this is a trigger. I'm triggered because of what happened 5 years ago. I'm not angry about what she said to me now. I'm not angry about the fact that Connie took my bike. I'm angry because 10 years ago, this guy took my bike, and when I went to go get it, he raped me. You know what I'm saying? I'm
exactly.
Not right.
That's
I'm not.
A good example.
It's a trigger. Yeah. So once we begin to put things in place, but it impacts us. But like you said, the Holy Spirit, His grace is there. It's sufficient. He said His grace is sufficient for us, meaning He'll give us the strength we need to continue to go through. Because like you were saying, sometimes there's some things that we'll have to deal with on an ongoing basis.
Yes. And I used to say, how long? How long, Lord? That was my prayer. How long, Lord, I'm going to have to go through this? How long I'm going to have to feel like this, And then people say to me, and people are insensitive and don't know when you going to get a man?
Mm-hmm.
And then the other one is you can be the man in church. That don't mean that he's saved. That don't mean that he won't hurt you, you know. So there has to be healing too. And when you're going to do so, you need a man. That's the last one. I hear that almost weekly. You need a man. No, I don't need a man, you know. A companion, but you know how you have a platonic companion. I have had that. But eventually, some of them say they could be with you, or they would want to. I even had a guy one time, a very nice guy, I really cared for him, as a friend. We were platonic friends, but he was gay. And he said to me one day, like I said, and that's why I said to the Lord, well, what now? And he said to me, if anybody could turn me around, I could be with you. And I'm going, I remember saying that at work, okay, here we go. Here's a gay man, you know, that we friended each other. He was also in a domestic violence with his mate, and I'm going, okay, well, you know, that's deep to me.
Right.
You know, you already in the you become, people have become in domestic violence with the opposite sex, but one that's the same. That just seemed ludicrous to me. But then that's because I'm not, you know, in that kind of relationship. But then when he said that to me, then he started inviting me to dinner and stuff. I was like, you know, but we had been going to dinner. But it's after he said that made it uncomfortable, you know. So whenever I went, my daughter was little, whenever I went, I took her with me, you know, and it was like, so what's up with that, you know? I just don't know. And I never classified myself as pretty, sexual, none of those things. So then I would say, so then why, Lord? You know, I'm not the beauty queen of the world. Why is this happening to me?
And like you said, that's what a lot of women, a lot of men say, well, why me? And the problem is, it's not you, it's the person.
Yeah. But we look at it as, why me? You know? Like I said, because it happened before even the kindergarten. Right? And one of those that was so terrible, I don't remember. For real, I can remember bits and parts of it. Can't remember exactly. I can remember the man, you know. And that took a lot of therapy to even remember that, you know. And then in, like I said, elementary school, junior high school, girls, YMC, the girls thing. What do you call it? The girls.
YWCA?
Yeah, that club and dancing school, modeling school, no. Dancing school. It was just all the time. College, you know. And then I was like, why? You know. And then I started feeling like, when people say, oh, you done got so fat and stuff like that. And then I started feeling like that was a protection for me, you know. And then when it happened when I was fat, then I said, well, that don't work. That don't work either, you know. But that was the way it was, you know, because before, like I said, modeling school and stuff, I would be propped up. And then I began to not know, I think it's important, who I was. And it was like different facades, you know, and I couldn't find who I was in all of that, you know. So then people thought when I was feeling great, I was feeling bad. That was a false facade. And it took a therapist I knew, like, that was back in the 70s, and she noticed it. And she said, I know when you're not feeling good, because then I was feeling bad. I had everything, the hair and the jewels and she knew that. But nobody else did, because people now think that I thought I was cute. That was insecurity. That was covering up for how I was really feeling.
And I think the thing, what you said is so powerful, because when that abuse comes, it's designed to kill, steal, and destroy. It's designed to keep us from knowing who we are, right? That you're fearfully and wonderfully made, that God has you created you for a purpose. All of that stuff comes to take that away from you. You don't know who you are. Some people don't know whether they're like men, women, animals. You chasing the pain, okay? Alcoholics, substance abuse. Some people don't even have kids. Some people are even afraid to be in relationships because they don't trust themselves. They don't trust themselves. I don't want to be in a relationship because I may abuse somebody. So I'm afraid. Right. All of that stuff has come, that's the fallout of that sexual abuse. That's the fallout of pornography. That's the fallout of strip clubs. That this sexualized culture that we have, that we don't think, it's no big deal. It is a big deal because it impacts all of us, right? Especially those of us who are victims of sexual abuse. So it comes to, so you don't know who you are. Because if you don't know who you are, you'll never be all that God has for you. You'll never be what He created you to be, because we were so focused on trying to stay alive, right? You're trying to stay alive, to dealing with defense mechanism. That's why when the scripture says His strength is made perfect, am I saying that? Is made perfect in our weakness. Once we realize that these are the defense mechanisms that I'm going to be working on, this is my cross, so to speak, and I accept it. I accept that there may be up days and down days, right? I know there are going to be up days, down days. I know there are going to be triggers. I accept that. Then I can begin to rest in it. It doesn't mean that I'm not trying to get better. It's just that I understand this is part of who I am because of what has happened to me. Mm-hmm. So because of what has happened to me, I know I may have some down days, I have some up days, I may have some triggers. I just got to manage the symptoms. And once I know I just got to manage these symptoms, then I realize this is just part of who I am, managing these symptoms. It doesn't take away from the fact that I'm not going to beat myself on it. I'm going to accept it. I'm going to cast this on God and say, this is who I am. And I'm going to treat my symptoms just like any other chronic illness.
That's
chronic
what I situation. Say, like blood pressure, diabetes, or whatever. Yeah, I do find that, like I said, because it's a step every day. Mm-hmm. It's a step every day. You take your monitor your sugar or blood pressure, and you say, okay, it's a little out. Make sure you take your medicine. Mm-hmm. Make sure you do thus, and thus. And I have found that all of this, and I may have been a little bit like this anyway, but introverted. Mm-hmm. And people go, you don't want to do this, and you don't want to go there, and you don't want, and I'll say, and you know that too, I'll say, okay, I'm going to do that. And then by the time it comes to do that, I'm going, I ain't doing that, you know? Mm-hmm. And it doesn't have anything to do with you. It doesn't have anything, but it's one of them days that you can't function. Mm-hmm. And so I stopped. I used to do it. And I used to go clubbing with people. And I used to do whatever they wanted to do. And then I realized they don't do nothing I want to do. So I'm not doing that anymore. Mm-hmm. So when they ask me, do I want to go? Even my sister said, you gotta get out of that. You got to come on out with us. You got to come on. And I say to myself, for what? So they can mistreat you? Because inadvertently they might not intend to mistreat you, but they do. Because they set you up in a situation that you can't handle, that I can't. I can speak for me, that I can't handle. And they know that, you know. And basically I want to be, somebody said, do you want to be like, yes, invite me. And I said, more than likely, you ain't got to sneak around. Invite me because I ain't coming. And I'm going to let you know. I'm not going to just not show up, but I'm going to let you know I don't want to do that, you know. Mm-hmm. And I don't like crowds because I'm going to be touched, you know. And it's too many things for me to focus on for safety. Yeah. You know? Mm-hmm. So I don't want to be in crowds. And like I said, when I went to Refuge, even though it was crowds, the people were different than any church I had been to. Now it's a little bit different, but still in the beginning, it was what I needed. Mm-hmm. And you know how you hear people say it was that season, you know. And so sometimes the season is over, and we hold on. And I said, we hold on to a branch that ain't got nothing but some thorns on it, and we hurt ourselves by holding on to something that's no longer good for us. That's right. You know, that's no longer good for us. But I find, like I said, I stay to myself mostly. You know.
It definitely. And, you know, and the thing is, even in 2024, I think it's for people to understand that it's important, like you were saying, Connie, to listen to your kids, to pay attention, not to just to leave them with anyone. It's important to you, if you are a person being abused, a kid being abused, or even an adult, is that you keep telling people until you get help. That you don't shut people out, because people can provide you that support, can help in some way. And we have a 1-800 number that we're going to share with people. But I think it's so important that we talk about it, we normalize it, even at birthday parties, at family reunions. You know, at any time you have a gathering of your family, it's a good idea just to kind of pass out some information. You don't have to go into big detail. Pass out information. In the church, pass it out. Because everybody knows somebody. You may not think you know nobody, but you know somebody. Yeah. Okay. Who was a victim of sexual abuse, incest, whether, you know, family, outside of the family, we all know someone. So in closing, is there anything else you want to share?
Yes. I want to share that one of the things that I did, when you asked me the question what I did, one of the things I did when I did decide that people could talk me into coming out, like parties, and people had house parties, I carried my daughter with me, okay? And she was little, like a tot and stuff. And she was always well behaved and went to bed at a certain time. So when I got to the people's house, I put her to bed, and partied and then came home. Now that may not work for some people, and it may not seem like it was appropriate, because I did keep checking, because you don't know, people say, I'm going to the bathroom, and then what could happen? And that's the point, one of the points I want to make. My mother said to me one time that that's why she kept, like you said, and you keep things to you. She said she didn't know basically what happened. And she said, that's why I kept, I didn't have people over my house, and I kept an eye on my kids and stuff. And inside of me, I said, no, you didn't, But I never wanted to hurt her, so I didn't say nothing. That's another thing. We tend to think more of the other people. And so then she said, because I remember one time when somebody went to the bathroom. They had a card party. Somebody asked to go to the bathroom, she said. And then I heard one of my children, me and my sister slept in the same room, hollering and crying. And I don't know which one it was. And I said, I know she would have responded to that Oprah show where that man said he went to bed with his daughter. And I said, you know. I said, it was me, And she got very quiet. I knew she knew, And that's the person that happened when I was 3. But I don't remember I remember I couldn't go to the bathroom, I remember that I bled when I went to the bathroom. Things like that. And so, listen. That's all I say. Listen to your children, and watch them. Because they still tell something in action sometimes, So watch them. Because they thought, I was afraid of the snowman. Because this person, had vitiligo, and my brother had built a snowman, and the snow got dirty, the brown spots and stuff. And this individual was coming up the back steps of our courtyard, and I had a fit. And I do remember my brother wanting to know why I was having a fit. And I didn't know until therapy. I had associated this dirty snowman with this man with the white spots. So listen and watch is what I have to say.
Thank you.